Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Welcome back to the Travelers Podcast. I'm Brother Ali. Man, this is a dope episode. I've been saying this over and over and over again because I'm just having really a wonderful time, talking to people that I love, people I respect, people that I want to learn from, people that I love to connect with, and just trying to seek wisdom, trying to connect with them, sharing notes, traveler's notes, the the journals that we make along the way and the twists and turns that we go through and what they mean to each other. It's a really, really beautiful thing to be able to do. This week on the Travelers Podcast, I'm talking to somebody that is from this category of very special people in my life where I enjoy their work, their art, their music, their writing. Sometimes it'll be a religious leader or teacher. Sometimes it'll be a political person or a thought leader or just even somebody online that just makes content. There's a lot of people that I enjoy what they do. I like most things. People make music and all this kind of stuff. I like it. But there are certain people that it's beyond just enjoying what they do. I feel a connection with them on a soul level, and I feel like I know them already. And what has happened more times than not is that when I finally get a chance to be around those people, it's mutual and it's confirmed, that the hearts really are connected. There was something that I was registering in what this person was putting out into the world that made me feel instantly connected to them. It feels like we're already friends. It feels like we already know each other. Many of the people on this podcast were that way. And the first of all of them was KRS-One. When I was 13 years old, I tell this story all the time, but KRS was my favorite. I memorized every lyric that he said. His album called BDP Live Hardcore Worldwide that he did with his brother DJ Kenny Parker and his wife at that time, may she rest in peace. And I mean, D Nice is on that record, and Heather B is on that record. Willie D, so but the whole BDP crew is on that record. That was and it remains to be my blueprint for how to rock a hip hop show. Are the recordings on that live album? So KRS-One was that person for me. And when I was 13, I met him, and I didn't just go to the lecture, but he brought me on stage. He signed my book. He told me I should read the autobiography of Malcolm X. So I have these experiences. And then, I mean, Dr. Cornell West was the same way. My teacher, Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah, was the same way. I think I mentioned in this conversation today that when I met Minister Farrakhan, he's somebody that I've always loved and respected and admired to the utmost. And I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam. My religious teacher and leader was actually Imam Waruddin Muhammad when I first became a Muslim. And Minister Farrakhan and Imam Waruddin Muhammad took different theological directions and organizational directions, and they were somewhat opposed to one another. But Minister Farrakhan is somebody that I really felt this very, very deep, profound love, connection, respect. And when I got a chance to meet him, it's just amazing. But today's guest is Kiese Laymon. Kiese is an author. He's a writer. He is my favorite writer of our generation. I believe him to be the best. He speaks to me in a way that nobody else does that I've come across. Not that I'm the most avid reader, but I do get down from time to time and partake in the literary offerings of the people that are offering them. So Kiese wrote a book called How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America, a series of essays. Amazing. What I learned later is that Kiese sold the rights of that book to a publisher for $1,000, which is just like the most like hip hop thing ever. You know what I'm saying? Somebody sells their classic first album just because they just want to get it out in the world, And I think they even limited what he was trying to say. And so he sold that and the rights to the next offering that he gave was called Long Division, which is what he calls a meta fiction. These are books that are based in Kiese's home life experience in Mississippi. I think he's maybe 5 years older than me, but we're from the same generation. And the way that he talks, is just amazing. So he put these two books out, and they're absolutely incredible. Then he got to release his masterpiece. I mean, How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Long Division are incredible. I love them so much. But the next thing that he put out was a memoir that he wrote in the form of a long letter to his mother called Heavy. And he talks a lot about being a heavy guy like I am. There's so much about this story that really, really spoke to me, and the way that he wrote it and the way that he describes his interactions and dealings and the way his body feels and the things he thought and the things he saw and was experiencing. No one has written in a way that touches me like this, probably since James Baldwin. And so Kiese wrote this masterpiece called Heavy. Heavy started to get some pub, and it started really circulating outside of just the people that read modern Black literature. It became known. He kind of had his breakout moment, and you'll hear that Kiese really has based so much of what he does in his career on hip hop artists. He's trying to write a book that will be a classic hip hop album, and he's trying to write for people who don't read books. And it just comes through so loud and clear. So what's so amazing is after Heavy got big, he started talking to people about optioning his other works for TV and other formats and movies. And so he said, "Man, I got to get the rights to my first book back," which is basically like a musician buying their masters back. And he went back and did it, and he, regained the rights to his first two books. He re-released the first one, How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America, with some new things that he added. There were some things that he wrote back at the time that the book first came out that he wasn't able to include, and it sold all over again. You know what I mean? So Kiese is a hero of mine, and he's somebody that I read his work and I felt like I love this dude. I'm reading him in high school, and I feel like I'm there. And so this was actually our first conversation. Brendan, Kelly, BK1, my DJ for the first 10 years of my career, and the producer of this podcast, he actually did some work with Kiese in Minneapolis several years back. And so he connected us for this interview. This interview is our first time talking. And what you're going to hear is just that we jumped in, and it was just like being old friends. So thank you for being here. Enjoy this episode. We're brought to you, as always, by Zakat Foundation. This particular episode is also sponsored by Udamentary and by Mystic Man grooming and beard care products to just be fly and be dope. So enjoy this episode of the Travelers Podcast.
Thank y'all for making this happen, fam. We didn't even, I don't know if I told you this, Brendan, when you reached out, but yo, I used to teach Shadows on the Sun for like my first 10 years of working. Like 10 years straight, fam. Like that was I used to teach it in this course called Narratives of the Underground. And I used to teach it in between. It was wild class. It was like Dostoevsky was over here. I was teaching Sopranos at the time. And then I was teaching Shadows on the fucking, and I was teaching this book by Rebecca Walker called To Be Real. And that was the order. And then I had just started teaching. I think Blueprint came out. Anyway, Shadows on the Sun was like the first album I taught ever. And so anyway, fam, I'm just so thankful to be here. And yeah, thank y'all for making time for me.
That's so amazing, man, because you are hands down my favorite number one living writer.
Bro, that's crazy, bro. Those like we can't do this. We can't do this.
There's not a close second.
Man, listen, you man, if we want to get into it, I can tell you why you better than me, motherfucker. Yo, listen, that first line of that album, and then Forrest Whitaker, like, that's my style. Like, if somebody was like, show me your style, I'd be like, the first line, like when you talk about the funeral home and the library, and then what you did on Forrest Whitaker, bro, like, we've been trying to do that shit in literature successfully for a while. We ain't done it yet, but anyway.
Okay, but I never said that anybody was humming the beat to the Piggly Wiggly commercial.
Hey, you can't come down here, bro.
Man, I never had a, "Man, take over these nuts."
I mean, that's real, man. You know, you lose your money, you be real bold and shit. I was mad as a mug, man. Man, I was mad. I
Yeah.
remember that like yesterday.
Crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
So thank y'all though for real, man. I mean I could talk about your work, bro, like and what it's done and what it did to my students for like a decade straight. Um, it was yeah. So anyway, we can talk about whatever y'all want to talk about, but I'm just gonna say I'm very, very, very thankful.
Word up. Man, I heard you say in an interview, you've just talked so much about how hip hop has really influenced you and that you've always been trying to write books that could hang with the greatest rap records.
Yeah.
And I heard you say something about the fact that David Banner's crew, the Crooked Letters, and Banner is a friend of mine,
Mm,
that his that crew, one of the younger brothers of the guys in that crew, you wrote an essay about Death Certificate, and he told you that shit bangs. You should put a beat to it.
that's right.
And so I've heard you say that it's this whole time, like really your concept of writing is trying to write for people that normally wouldn't read books,
Yep.
and really just being inspired by hip hop. So I wonder if we could start there,
Yeah.
just talking about what the legacy of hip hop has been in terms of its influence on you as a person and also as a writer.
Man, first again, I guess I gotta say what I said off air, bro. Like, I mean, you and your art, and particularly Shadows on the Sun, like that's one of the reasons that I mean, that's one of the foundational like works of art in like what I consider like my style coming up. And definitely Crooked Letters, Mrs. Mrs. David Banner and my boys, big brother was Kamikaze. Kamikaze like my big brother too, but I was best friends with Kamikaze's little brother. And his name is B Dazzle, Brandon. And I mean, there's a whole lot of ways to say it, and it's all gonna sound hyperbolic, I guess, in 2022, but fam, it was how we breathed. It was just like how we laughed. It was how we talked. It was how we dressed. It was how we taught us how to pray. Our grandmothers had already taught us how to pray, taught us how to pray a different way. And much
Mhm.
more importantly, like it was one of the only ways that we could talk to one another in all of its like complexity and all of its like simplicity. We could talk to each other and like 5-second intervals and have like mad laughter next to fucking mad sorrow. But really I just think is what happens, man, when a musical art form, when you feel like it loves you or sees you. Because I don't think New York
Mhm.
loved us, but I
Mhm.
think I think it saw us. And then by the time West Coast, I think they did love us because I think they came from us. Midwest, I think they loved us too, because I think there's a deep connection between the South and the Midwest. So anyway, fam, like it's just like everything. I love talking about hip hop so much more than talking about books. But I gotta talk about books in most of these interviews. But um it just gave me direction, and it just made me feel like it made me know what I knew, which is like in school I was taught like to be more complicated, you had to erase yourself. And in hip
Mhm.
hop, I was taught to be worthy, you had to see parts of yourself that the world told you to not see. And so
Mm.
I would much rather see myself and be seen and be heard, and hear folks who look like me than not. And so it was real talk. It was school versus hip hop. And that's simplistic, but that's what it was. And school didn't give a fuck about hip hop. And hip hop did give a fuck about school. So it was just like that's where we lived, man. And we still some of us still live in that. We just don't get to talk about it as much.
Mhm. So much of what you have gone on to write about and to share, it really feels to me like Scarface is one of the first, what I'm saying? Like he was the guy that would talk about all of the street stuff, but it was never exaggerated or glorified. It
Right.
was like sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's terrifying. All of the times I feel horrible about being me.
Oh, whoa.
And and the voice that he has, what I'm saying? Especially as he grew. So when he was younger, it was a certain one, but then later in life, he got this different voice.
He
And then he
did,
started
bruh.
rolling tone about the phone tone. Whether
Oh my
I never seen a
god.
man cries till I seen a man die. Man, it was almost like Scarface started out like, he's always been like the big brother or the uncle or like the OG that just really seemed like I mean, I felt looking like me, coming from it being in Michigan and Minnesota, like I know what he did for me
Right.
just in with him being like, "I'm not okay.
I'm
Sometimes
not
I wanna
okay.
kill myself."
Yep.
And I'm a rap star,
Yep.
and your lady likes me, and
Yeah.
sometimes I get money, and I can play the guitar,
Yep.
and I can do all of these things. Just like the permission to be human, and he's big like us, man. He's a
Bruh.
big guy like us too. He lost weight recently, but I
Yeah.
mean, he got a fat boy soul.
And his voice got fat. Like
He
when you
fat
talked about his
voice,
voice
man.
shifting, it was his voice
Right.
got fat, which to
Mm.
us was, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I was appreciative that to me, the most foundational rapper in my life could go through voice changes. I felt the same way when DMC changed his voice. I was like, what the fuck?
Mm.
Because for so long, man, DMC was a motherfucking superhero, bro. Like the superest of superheroes. And so
Yeah,
much of that was
yeah,
voice. And
yeah.
Scarface too, so when Scarface is like, I sit alone in my four corner room, like, bro,
Standing
like,
candles.
yo, just sitting, like, you mean to tell me you as a young big black boy are in a room, sort of like LL was with I Need Love, but you ain't talking about no girl, you ain't
Mhm,
talking about no unrequited love. You talking about that shit we ain't supposed to talk about at all. Fucking like,
mhm,
we didn't have the names for it. And he was trying to give us the names. He was telling us about bipolar disorder. He was telling us about
mhm.
depression. He was telling us about anxiety. Um, he was telling us about all of that shit, man. And the other thing he did, which was like he started talking about his mother in ways that weren't just like corny. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
a lot of MCs back then, man. Like I love the Mama song on the albums,
mhm.
but a lot of those Mama songs weren't really that honest. Like he was kind of being like, I love my mama to death, but some days she ain't love me. That shit felt,
Mhm.
before Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit felt very um risky. you know,
Mm, mm,
um
mm.
but much more importantly than anything, man, he gave us room to be psychologically fucking afflicted, and he gave us language if we really listen. And that's the other question, like, because I got some people who grew up who listen the same way I listen, but they heard something different. You know what I'm saying? Like when Mind of a Lunatic, they heard something different. I'm just gonna say, like, they
Right,
heard something
right.
different than I heard in Mind of a
Yeah.
Lunatic. You know what I'm saying? So, and I get
Yes.
it. Like Mind of a Lunatic, there's a lot of shit to mishear in that mug, but I heard a
Mhm.
motherfucker that I did not want to be, and I know some folk who heard a person they couldn't help but being.
Well, I love that connection about, how to slowly kill yourself and others in America because it's not possible to kill others without killing self. Like, all killing is killing.
It's killing. That's
The
Scarface,
Quran
man.
says yeah, man.
And
I was
and, and what
that's
you
what
did
that's
with
what
your voice, that rock, like that's what I was trying to get in heavy. That kind of like you walk up to, because what I hear when his voice changes on like I hear like walking to the edge, walking back, walking to the edge, walking
Mm.
back, walking to the edge.
Mhm.
And so, like with heavy, I was trying to do that shit. I was trying to like, here's a deliverance. I'm gonna walk that shit back. Here's your deliverance. Oh, he lost weight. Okay. Oh, he gained weight. Okay. Oh, his mama, blah blah blah. Oh, he stopped gambling. Like, and I just think like Americanism is so much like we always want that deliverance and shit. You write about this so well, bro. Like, and so I hear it in Scarface's voice when his voice changed. I hear that kind of uneasiness, like that unsureness that we're not supposed to have as black men, right? Like, and he just
Mm.
like, anyway, I was trying to get that in that book. I feel like I talked to you about that. And I'm never able to talk to people about that because they only want to talk about Scarface. Uh,
Well, and the physical, just you write in a very physical way, and you don't just write about your body, but you're writing from your body, and your body is speaking as much through the words on the page as anyone I've ever heard write, really since James Baldwin. Like there was something about Baldwin's writing that's like this is a little guy, and you write about our shared interaction with weight, the way that
Right.
Baldwin wrote about the way that he's just like, hey man, I'm fat, I'm heavy.
Right.
Like, let's just say it. Like, let's say, no, you're
Right.
not. Baldwin was like, hey, I'm gay, I'm poor, I'm black, and I'm ugly.
Yes.
Like, being ugly was something that he owned. Like,
Jackpot. He
I
said that's
have
the
lived
jackpot.
life. I lived life as an ugly person. Ugly is part of who I am. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
And and so there's like there's a really like physical embodied type of writing that really like that comes off of the page, man. And the way that you were talking about, Scarface, you can feel him swaying and rocking in a
Right.
chair when he's saying it, and you can feel that he's almost like there's times where it sounds like he turns away from the mic. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's like you can see his body even though you can't see his like you're feeling intuitively like what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I
man.
mean, that's that's where I feel like I gotta be careful in this conversation because I'm gonna say a lot of shit that I feel like if anybody ever hears, I'm gonna be called for. But the page, man, just has so many limitations. I'll just say that. And I think some of
Mm,
us who grew up really loving and being loved by black music writ large, but definitely like I'm talking specifically hip hop, and those of us who grew up in like a blues and gospel tradition, like I didn't like gospel, but that shit like loved the women who loved me, so it shaped me. Bro, like
mm,
that is the imperative to try to bring that body to the page. But that's what's so interesting is like growing up in at least in Mississippi, like we were just
mhm,
taught that like not only did our voices and our sounds not belong in this particular classrooms, but like the particular like body parts and like that didn't belong in literally girls couldn't show body certain body parts. We couldn't wear muscle fucking shirts, and then we couldn't write our bodies onto the page. So anyway, I just always wanted to kind of do what I saw a lot of different people doing. From somebody, you can talk about Kim, right? Lil Kim writing her body on the page, in a different way, to Scarface writing his body on the page in a different way. And I just wanted to do it, bro. And really, hip hop was the first shit that gave you permission. And I mean, it was seen as like funny, but I'm that age with where fat boys were people were like, who's better, the fat boys or Run DMC? And so for
mhm,
me, Prince Marky D, Kurok Ski, Human Beatbox, like I was, whether I believed it or not, I was putting them up against anybody as
mhm,
rappers. You know what I'm saying? And part of it
mhm,
was because they were the only people, and then you had Heavy D and you had some other, but hip hop was the only place I saw big, fat black boys and men talk about the terror and the joys of being big, fat black boys and men. You can
mm.
talk about that shit other places. You can say we saw it on TV or Fat Albert or some shit. Whatever. It wasn't the same, fam. Like I mean, so I'm just saying, like I want to talk about all the things hip hop got wrong too. But one of the things it did for me was like it literally wrote my body into songs. Like that's a big
You,
deal for a motherfucker who look
you
like
know what's
me, you know?
what's deep is the last time like so I try to think about like before that, when's the last time a fat person actually got to be on camera and singing at the same time, got to be the star of the show? And it's the blues, which is
That's
like
right.
obviously that connection to Mississippi again. But I
That's right.
mean, Muddy Waters was not a thin guy. You know
Nope.
what I mean? Like so many of these people that we love, like something about, you could be a big dude and sing and you could also be fly at the same time
Yeah.
and talk about all of these things. And they spoke about bodies in a very similar way. And when you think about like, okay, what's the through line there? It's
Right.
like, okay, so with blues music, it's like that music started circulating. It was like, you got the Chitlin circuit, you got the juke joint, you got the Big Mama Thornton and like that whole thing where
Yeah.
people are like the black community is the vessel for the music. And
Right.
then when it comes to rock and R&B and so much of that stuff, uh, I guess we did get to see Luther half the time Luther was big.
I was about to say a
but
little bit.
but
We
that
we
was
got a
rare. That was
little
rare.
real rare. Yeah. Yeah.
We got Big Luther, but Big Luther's voice was always big, especially when he did the that part, that's big voice. But the thing about hip hop is like both of the blues and hip hop took hold and became a force to reckon with before white people, the white music industry got their hands on it
Yep.
and started chipping away at it. And so you see more of a full picture, not only of individuals, but also you see more of a communal thing where
Absolutely.
like, Heavy D and Kid and Play
Yep.
are in the same genre. They're in the same world. They exist in the same space. Both of them talk about highs and lows, and there's a comedic thing, and they're all getting girls, and they're all
Yep.
dancing. They're all fly. They're all pro black. They're all
Yep.
light skinned. They're
Yeah.
all, you know what I mean? Like this whole thing, and all of it's almost like, these things really had a communal rooting and mooring before the music industry got a hold of them. And so you see what happened once the music industry did get their hands on it. It's like,
Yes.
okay, this gotta go, this gotta go, that
Right.
has to go, that has to go.
Right.
And now we see what we're left with.
And what do you do with Biggie up in there, fam? And particularly that like Heartthrob Never. I'm asking you, the writer of Forrest Whitaker. Like what do you do with like Biggie comes in and become not just a sex symbol, but that song becomes sex for a number of summers, right? Like Heartthrob Never,
Right.
Black and Ugly as Ever. Like even the words however, right? But like we would play that song when we wanted to talk about sex, much less fucking like actually go have it. It'd be a room, it'd be a car full of dudes. You know what I'm saying? Just like, man, you ain't finna do shit, but listen to Biggie talk about fucking really. But what do you do with that, right? Like that's because I love what you're saying about how when the market gets in and it kind of starts to, because they talk a lot about how what the market did to women in rap, right? But I hear you saying that the market kind of like sanitized men, like men's body image of who could be in front of the mic. Is that what
Absolutely,
you know? Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, and Biggie is symbolic, and Craig Mack. So you talking about,
yeah,
Biggie is Kiese, and Craig Mack is Baldwin. Like Craig Mack,
mm,
I'm saying like Allah, God rest his soul. If Baldwin is like owning ugliness, like ugliness is maybe part of Craig Mack. Now, as a Muslim, it's like this woman came to the Prophet Muhammad and she said, "I'm ugly." And he's like, "You're beautiful." He's like, "Allah didn't create anybody that's not beautiful."
right, right,
You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Um, but like Craig Mack, so you think about like Craig Mack and Biggie, both of them are like the emergence of in New York. Like this happened already earlier, especially in the South, but and on the West Coast, but like in New York, Puffy coming out of Howard and Puffy coming out of
mm,
coming out of being under a black music institution
mm,
and basically saying like being the newest version of like I'm gonna take what the streets want and make America accept it
mhm,
and do it on our terms. There is a
mhm.
black power dynamic to that. Even though you could point at things Biggie said or whatever on records, and you could have conversation about all that, and you would probably be one of the best people to do that. Um,
No, I
but
believe you, bro. Like, I think you're right. I think people don't talk about Ready to Die as a Black Power album enough, or album that is
mm,
in conversation with traditional notions of Black Power. And Biggie lets you know when that album starts with what you get a little bit of Snoop, and I think he might have started with Broken Glass. You get the in the beginning, you get that little medley of things, and I think he's being like, this is our lineage, like this is my lineage. Um,
yes,
and for me, when he's like things done changed, that to me is him speaking to like Black Power post soul shit, bro. Like things done changed, you know?
yeah, and I'm saying in that whole like understand like his understanding of the crack epidemic and what that means, and it's not, yeah, I think that because he's compared to Pac so much,
Right,
he's seen as like the ignorant one. Pac is the Black Power guy, and Biggie is just all sex and violence and drugs and fly stuff. But
right.
but I think, yeah, I mean, I see it the exact same way. I think, man, one of the things I love so much about hip hop in general is the way that it really embodies and like calls upon it. It calls all of the parts of the black musical
It
tradition,
does.
and it gives them all major roles to play.
Yep,
That like there's almost nobody. I mean, even trap music, like they're speaking
yep,
over 808s.
yep.
You know what I mean? And they're speaking over certain certain scales, and like they're still very much like rooted in a blues scale. There's still something very like soulful about all of it, man. So yeah, I see that the exact same way. Like at the beginning of that Biggie record with all, you
Right. Right. That's right. That's right.
know what I mean? It's like this is what we grew up with. These are all the people that I'm based on, and it helps contextualize him.
But and you know what, fam? The thing, and saying this to you is wow. Like, there are these moments in your career, or whatever, where you feel like I'm gonna play myself, but when you feel like you done made it, and this is one of them. But for me, like when I used, man, Shadows of the Sun, bro. Like when I would teach that joint, part of it was that I was trying to get my kids to understand the importance of like the meta turn, or like people call it like ars poetica, right? Like poetry about poetry. But so much of hip hop, whether we talking about somebody who could rhyme their ass off or not rhyme, so many MCs were rhyming about hip hop. And I just love
Hmm.
that. I love that the focus of so many rappers was hip hop. That to me was like, in a way, what they were trying to teach us in school, when they were trying to, be like, you are a critic of the thing you're writing. But then they would never let us, like, all right, well, let me write a paper about writing this paper. But hip hop was like all paper is about writing the paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so many
Yeah, yeah,
motherfuckers
yeah,
like writing papers about the paper. And I was just
yeah.
like, and to me, real talk, that's some nerd shit. But it was some nerd shit that we like. I just adored. So when you at the end of that on that song, you're like, you know, like this is where I see the world from my pad and pen. Like you're
Hmm.
taking us in the writing process. You'll be, this is what I see, but now I'm about to like literally make y'all become fucking ink, right? Like Rakim. And to me, family, even when I talk about it now, and I was trying to do that in a lot of my different books that I've written, I'm trying to like bring people into the writing process. Like, like heavy
Hmm.
ends as heavy begins. And so, but that's hip hop music,
That's right.
fam. Like
I
that's
wanted to write a lie.
yeah, I wanted to write a lot. Let me fucking end where you start. But that's what y'all do so well. And I just wanted to be able to. I mean, I hate to be one of the writers who's like just trying to bite rappers every which way. But part of me is trying to bite rappers every which way, bro. Cause but I think it has a different effect on the page though. But still, I just think like the way y'all narrativize your encounters with your own art is just something that
Hmm.
like and I'm still obsessed with. Like as a human, as a grown man, I'm obsessed with people talking about their encounters with art. And that's what I think real talk of a lot of hip hop is doing.
And there's something about particularly like a black cultural excellence art form that did not get permission from anybody, wasn't being recognized by anybody, basically saying my like this art form is so important and so worthy and so like it's so worthy of study that as I'm inventing it, I'll also explain it to you. Like I'll
So
also give you like the explanation. I'm going to give you almost like footnotes. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, here's
right.
me being ill for an entire song. Now here's me explaining to you how I'm ill, what that means, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Jay-Z and Dream Hampton finally wrote that book where he breaks down
Decoded,
the
yeah.
stories, the double entendres, the all that kind of thing. So that, and I really feel like, that was an amazing moment. But like you're saying, like rappers have done that from the very beginning. And
Yo,
that
you
that
do
that
that, fam. I'm trying to remember the verse. I see all this from the what's the verse? I see all this from the rhyme book that I write my rhymes
desk
from.
got see all this from the desk I write my rhymes from.
Ooh, the
Pen starts
desk
to
by
scribble on
G.
its own, my mind's numb.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so like this, like I see all that from the desk. Like you're like I don't know, like I don't really need to think why it's so important for me to hear people who rhyme from a place of love for us talk about the desk, talk about the fucking like notebook. If you rock him, like obsess over the mic, like these things
Right,
that like
right.
get the voice to us, got the art to us. Like I just feel like it's so dope. The motherfuckers ain't taking that shit for granted. And I'm not saying they took it for granted in R&B and rock and all of that, but it was different, fam. Like the instrument wasn't rhymed about. Like, motherfuckers weren't
Right.
rhyming about their voices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You just sing.
you've never heard Aretha talk about her clarity and the number of octaves she could do, and the fact that she just switched to 3/3 time and then went, or
Right,
3/4 and then
right,
went back to, you know what I mean? She never, that didn't happen. That wasn't
right.
happening. She wasn't also documenting her own greatness. She was just being great.
Yes.
And I think about the fact that your mom told you, like you said that, your mom forcing you to write every single day, and like you got to go over these people's house because they have the full encyclopedia
Yeah.
set, come back with an essay about this, and had to write an essay every single day.
Every day.
And there's something also about the fact that, like, I know it has other significance, but the when I was thinking about the fact that your name is Key
Yep.
Essay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the opening of the essay. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I
Like, this
didn't
is part
even
of what rappers do.
I mean, fam, like I wanted to be a rapper my whole life, and I was always thinking of names and shit. And then when I got to
Mhm,
college, I had a newspaper column, and the editor called it the key essay. And then I called my boy. Actually, you just talked about my friend B Dow's when I was like, nigga, I got it. And he was like, what is it? I was
mhm,
like, key essay. And we were, he was just like, that's your name, bruh. I was like, because I'm in college still acting like I have a fucking like chance at being like a rapper. And what's so ill is I was talking to him about the title of my column in the school newspaper, but still the idea of being a writer was so far away from me than the idea of being a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking to him like, yo, I got a
yeah,
rap name. And not like, yo, I got a column in the newspaper. Cause he was like, he would be like, who give a fuck? Motherfucker, like you gonna write that bullshit, who
mhm,
cares, right? But
right.
more importantly for him was like, I've been trying to find this name my whole life, and now who knew I had it. So anyway, yeah, man, like the name, the key essay, I hate to give it to this editor though, but this white editor dude, he did come up with that shit though. So Andrew Libby, shout out to Andrew Libby though.
Shout out to Brendan Kelly, BK1, the producer of this podcast. Brendan is the one that he actually coordinated some interviews with Kiese when he came to town many years ago. And Brendan actually told me, because he knew how much I loved Kiese's work. Brendan actually told me, like, yo, he told us he's a fan of yours. So Brendan has the difficult task. He put this interview together. He's the one that connected us. And now he's got the difficult task of trying to figure out where do we put ad breaks in a conversation like this. But here we are. And if we're going to have to break into a conversation, I'm really happy that I get to do it talking about products and services and organizations and people that I feel good about. Zakat Foundation, ZAKAT, has been here with us, supporting us since the beginning of the Travelers Podcast. It's a global humanitarian organization. A lot of times those are started with great intentions, and a lot of times a lot of them do a lot of great stuff. But Zakat Foundation is just very creative in terms of, looking at ways that this work sometimes misses the mark. So Zakat Foundation operates all over the world, doing really amazing things in the lives of people, but it's all directed and driven and carried out by and facilitated by the people that live in these communities. It's not some, big rich outsiders coming in saying, we know how to solve your problems. It's like, let's partner together. We're able to collect resources and we're here to serve, and you should be in the driver's seat. And so that's one of the things I love about Zakat Foundation. Another one is that it's a Muslim-led organization, and Muslims that are practicing, we have an obligation to share our provision, like what we have. Zakat is literally what that means. That's the word for the obligational part of Muslim charity and giving. And then there's so much more that we can do, but zakat means that we're attempting to purify our provisions and our income, and by giving. And so that's what Zakat is all about. So it's a Muslim organization, but they don't only help Muslims. They actually have helped people that are in dire need who have been antagonistic to Muslims. So people that have been like anti-Muslim, or like countries where Muslims have had a difficult time. Muslims had a hard time in Ukraine. And but when that thing started happening, I mean, the people were like, yo, this reminds us of Palestine. And we're going to help these human beings. And it doesn't matter how they have treated us as a nation. These are people, these are human beings experiencing need, and they're being oppressed. And so we're going to help them. And there were some Muslims that were like, yo, why? and Zakat Foundation led the way in that, so they don't only help Muslims, and also, everybody, we're always inviting people to Islam, but there's this weird thing because we love it and we believe that it genuinely holds the solution to the problems that human beings face, that it helps a human being become the best version of themselves. It teaches us the most and really makes real for us in embodied ways the most deep and profound truths of our existence. And we love it and we want to share it. But all that being said, when we help, like that's an honor to be able to do that. When we love and serve other people and are able to do that, that's an honor. Like it's enough. So they don't proselytize. It's not like, okay, come and, we're going to help you, but you also have to be Muslim and you have to memorize the Quran and you have to, it's not like that. So, I mean, Zakat Foundation is a great option for people who want to give. And all of us are in a position that we can give something. They've got stuff where you can do $50 a month and sponsor an orphan. And it literally provides everything that the orphans need. There's like $5 provides a hot meal for somebody in need. You know what I'm saying? And in that orphan program, they don't like 100% of that $50 goes directly to the orphans. None of it is for salaries or advertising or any of that stuff. None of that $50 is supporting the Travelers Podcast. All that is going directly to the people that need it. So, we're all experiencing a lot. We're all going through a lot. But one of the ways to treat our anxiety and our depression and our isolation and our alienation and all the stuff that we're going through is to give. So go on social media, check out Zakat US. You can follow all the stuff they do online at zakatfoundation.org. Find something that speaks to you. Put a little something on it. And we're grateful to be rocking with Zakat Foundation. When you were, when you were talking about, your mother forcing you to write, made you sit and with the page every day so that you could face the page. And that's like just looking at a blank page. I can't remember if I heard that in an interview, if you wrote it, but I remember I thought immediately of I start to think and then I sink into the paper like I was ink. When I'm writing, I'm trapped in between the lines and I escape when I finish the rhyme. That just the feeling of that very universal, very human, like all
Yep.
of the artists look at a blank canvas, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Bill Withers is sitting there with a guitar and there's nothing. Like, I need to
Right.
make something happen here.
Right.
Donny Hathaway is just looking at the same 88 keys that he'd been looking at his whole life. And how do I get something new out of this? Nina Simone got the same 12 notes, the same, everybody's dealing with this same thing. And the ability to like look into this page and something about the openness of the page,
Yeah.
inviting to look into self, to like really like there's something in me that's got to come out. And then also I always think about Banner, this is that connection with Mississippi, but Banner saying Cadillacs on 22s.
Woo!
And then, but I
Ain't
pimp my
been nothing
voice,
in my life to stay true. Yeah.
pimp my voice and Mac the Beats. And people hear like a pimp and they think that and he is a master of double entendre.
Right.
So much of what Banner has done, like he's been wise and conscious and all
The
this stuff
whole
for
time, man.
way
The
back.
whole
Yeah.
time.
And we could have a whole other conversation about Banner's trajectory, man. But I love him so much, man.
Me
When
too.
South Minneapolis was on fire, my wife, is a Black woman therapist from the Bronx. She's Black and Puerto Rican,
Wow.
and she was like seeing her clients still in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So my whole thing in the uprising, riot, all that stuff was just being there for my wife, taking care of the kids.
Wow.
And I get a phone call and it's Banner, and I pick up the phone and I just hear his voice say, "You good?" And I just started weeping, man,
That's
because I'm
him,
like,
bro.
I know what that means, but also I know that if the answer is no,
Yeah.
Banner might get in his truck and drive to Minneapolis.
Might. Better.
You know,
Yo, man. Band is as real as they come, fam. Like,
so when
and
he says like a pimp and like pimping my voice,
yeah.
really what he's talking about is these things that I've experienced in my life and my feelings about them and the ability that I have to turn this into something that can get me out of this situation and also help to heal. You know what I mean? There's a definite connection that I always think of that Rakim line when I read your stuff, and I also always think about like a pimp. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Even though
man.
there's a lot of God box and all that other stuff
Right.
as well,
Right.
but like a pimp is like, the things that I have, the things that this body and heart and mind and spirit and soul have all been through,
Yep.
all of this stuff, there's a connection here that I can speak about, that I can work on something for myself. I can like work out things for myself. I can actually address things with my mother and
Yep.
grandmother that I've never been, even though she might fall asleep while I'm reading it.
Right.
Thank you for all them words, Key.
Ain't
Oh
that
man, the way you write that, I can just see it. I can just see it.
Man, listen.
But then also I can say something to myself, I can say something to my mother, I can say something to my friends, and I can say something to my country, all while becoming somebody in this world and
That's
showing the
right.
world that I have something to offer, and then also giving permission for all the people that come behind me,
That's right.
to take it from there and to keep moving.
That's it,
It's a
man.
beautiful thing, man.
That's it. And it's real talk is that it's that boast. It's like that boast, confessional, and critique. And I just feel like banning like Cadillac on 22.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
he doing it all,
Right.
fam. Like people
That's
might
right,
hear
that's
that
right,
as
that's
just
right.
a confessional, right? But
Mhm,
listen to
mhm,
the name of the song. Like he boasting, he confessing, and he critiquing, right? He critiquing a system that's encouraging him to sell everything, to sell all
mhm,
pieces of his voice, to sell. And so for me, fam, it's just like, I mean, that's why I love your work so much. I think it's hard to get like real, like sensuous, lush, boast critiques and confessionals in the same piece of art, like the same song, sometimes in the same album. People try, but I mean, for me, man, when Banner was doing his thing as Moses, and for me, like that song, and I mean, as critical as I have to be of like a pimp, I think that the existence of those two songs, like they have to exist on the same album. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying as an older person, I'm sure Banner would be critical of. I mean, he was critical of making like a pimp then.
mhm,
But
mhm.
but you actually do need like a pimp for Cadillac on 22s to get the depth that it does get. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
saying I just think there's a lot in Banner. And I think sometimes also when you you talk about ugly and Craig Mack, I mean, I think Banner was doing an ugly thing with his voice to try to distort people. Like, "Hey, hey, hey," like that's
Mm,
not how that ain't really how he talk. You know what I'm saying? But like the hey, hey, like that kind of gruff shit. Like to me, there's texture in that. Like nobody
mhm,
growls who's not. I mean, men who growl are insecure, wonderfully
mm,
insecure. You know,
mm,
and I
mm,
and I
mm,
just I just I just like for me, fam. I just like hearing that. So when he's like Mississippi, like I hear something different than like oh, a monster, man. I hear a plea, a deep ass plea, a deep
mm,
ass plea. I mean, really, that album is about he's saying, come on home. We got you. Come back home. Y'all ran away.
mm,
Come on back here. We got you. But
mm,
let me do all these tricks and shit to get you back home. Let me talk about this and talk about this.
mm.
But at the end of the day, he like, man, y'all left us and we want y'all to come back home. That's really what that album to me, Mississippi is doing. So
Yeah, man, and Jackson in particular got such a
yeah.
amazing history of all things beautiful, man. You talk about the Malcolm X Black Roots or the Malcolm
Yes.
X Grassroots
Yes,
Association. You know what
indeed.
I'm saying? Man, I organized a what's the name of the mayor? I should be able to call
Chokwe,
it, but the mayor, yeah, yeah, Choka
Lumumba.
Lumumba, yeah. Um, we went for a conference that the Malcolm X Grassroots organization did right after his son had run and just barely just didn't get it, just missed it by
Right.
a really small amount. But I was able to witness them and just man, their organizing was on another level, man.
Another
I
level.
was in a room in particular where, and one of my organizing mentors at the time, Shaka Kali was there, and he's the one that brought us that made it, made sure we went to this thing. And so we're in a room and somebody's giving a presentation and they got a call or something and they had to leave, and the person behind them stepped up and flawlessly just continued the
That's
presentation as
it,
if,
man.
And Shaka was like, that's because these folks are living this thing together. Like
Living it.
this isn't just a meeting on Wednesdays where they
No.
order pizza and talk. You know what I'm saying? This isn't just from critiquing other people.
Right.
Like this is from actual living and breathing and sleeping and sexing and dancing and crying and cussing each other out. And like there's a lot of lived life in between this to
Yeah.
where you have people that really create something that actually can bring about a change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know if you met Skip. Did you meet Skip Coon? I don't know if you met Skip. He's an
I don't think
MC.
so.
Yeah. But yeah, fam, like, the organization historically in that state is I mean, you see the best of that manifested in that organization. But I think what's important about what you're saying is whenever I talk about Mississippi, I just think it's important that we realize, people remember at least, Mississippi has a history of organic, homegrown activism. It's still the blackest state in the union, still the poorest state in the union.
Hmm.
And yeah, thank goodness in Freedom Summer, folks came down there and tried to help us, get some schools, help us get our vote and whatnot. But they were coming down there to help already existing organizations that were doing the work. And I just think it's important for people to just, when you think about Mississippi, you think about what's happening, whether it's with Roe v. Wade or whether it's with fucking just poverty, whether it's with the governor not wanting to take the Medicaid expansion. Please, please, please remember that it is the blackest state in the union. Like, if you moving your ass to some sort of movement music, you moving your ass to Mississippi music in some form or fashion. And
Go ahead.
if you're talking about freedom, you talking about some shit that some Mississippians helped craft, whether it was Fannie Lou Hamer or Medgar Evers or fucking Ida B.
Mhm, mhm.
Wells or when Stokely Carmichael and them came down to Mississippi. So like I'm saying, like it's all the fucked up shit everybody ever heard of, but it's also all that other shit that gave other people a blueprint for liberation. And I just think we got to keep reminding each other. Jackson's going through a lot. I mean, Jackson's probably going through the hardest period of its existence right now, fam. Like like I think numbers are sort of iffy, but we leading the nation in murders right now, and the state, Republican state, has just taken every drip drop of fucking money out of the state, which is again, it's gonna hurt poor people the most. And when you're majority fucking black, majority poor state, they're just squeezing the fuck out of us, which they've been doing for a long time. The question is sort of like, what do we do? Those of us who just can't be squeezed the way we used to, and that's a harder question. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do actually right now, but I know that there are
Well,
people on the
man,
ground who are doing the work and who we can be of service to.
yeah. All of the great artists, especially, I mean, we obviously like hip hop is going to be the through line of this conversation, but all of the great, great artists, man, that we love, they all are connected to the place that created them. And it's so much a part of who they are and it's a part of their music. There's no Jay-Z without Brooklyn. There's no Big without Brooklyn. There's no Talib Kweli without Brooklyn. There's no Mos Def without Brooklyn. There's no more, man, nobody loves Brooklyn. I mean, nobody loves any place more than Brooklyn.
I know, I
Brooklyn.
know.
It's so nuts, man. It's so crazy.
Not
But
even
I'm saying,
Minneapolis.
like,
I feel like people love me. Minneapolis people love some Minneapolis, don't they?
well, I mean, we have to earn that joker, man.
I
Because I
feel
mean,
that.
we freeze. We
Yeah,
like the people that I no longer live there. I live in Istanbul, but
right.
man, when you live in Minneapolis, I mean, you are literally living in a place that, along with all of the other stuff, because I mean, Minneapolis is a place where there's tremendous racism, tremendous, but it's all under the guise, like the gaslighting that happens there is
Mm,
next level. It's
mm,
all like really white liberals patting themselves on the back for how much better they are than Mississippi or anywhere
mm,
else. And my first like breakout moment when I got to be on TV and all that stuff, I had Uncle Sam Goddamn
mm.
and then a song called Take Me Home. Those were like the two
Yes.
singles. And so we went on Conan O'Brien and Mint Condition was my band. And so we went on and I was like, hey man, I want to do Uncle Sam Goddamn. Stokely from Mint Condition, his name is Stokely because his father
Right.
is the leading black intellectual historian in the Twin Cities. And so
Wow.
Stokely was like, cool, this will probably be your last TV thing. Unless you blow up. Like, unless you blow up, If you blow all the way up, they'll have no choice. But these people are tuning in to go to sleep, to laugh. They want to see Conan. And
Right.
then here comes this big, like bald albino dude with this black band talking about Uncle Sam, goddamn.
Oh.
I don't know about this. And he's like, I'm just telling you right now. So I was like, what do we do? And he's like, oh, we play it. Like, no doubt. Like we play the song. I'm like, all right, cool. Of course we do. But Uncle Sam Goddamn was obviously,
Yeah.
Mississippi Goddamn. Like it was
Yes.
inspired by
I
Mississippi
loved
Goddamn.
it,
So
fam.
all the great artists, man, they're all so connected to place, and not only the physical geography of the place, but also the people, and that, and that's one of the things I think make you one of the great artists, man, of our time. You have these moments where you're telling these very real, sometimes really, like, no pun intended, heavy stuff,
Right.
and in the middle of it you'll say something that's just so Mississippi and so fucking hilarious. You know what I mean? That, like, I really needed a laugh right there really bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, when when you get to the end of Heavy, and now it's gambling addiction, it's just like, oh my God, man.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm crying for you. And I'm like, I feel my face get hot. I feel my teeth clenching.
Right.
My heart's beating. I'm like leaning in my chair, and I'm just like, come on, man. Like, we need you to win, man.
Right. That's because I feel like there's a part of you that knows something about that. You know what I mean? Like know a little bit about that. And I'm not saying gambling, but that desire sometimes to give that thing that we've worked so hard for away obsessively.
Oh, yeah, man.
Obsessively. You
Absolutely.
know? Yeah.
Absolute man, nobody say absolutely like Cornell West, man, but
Right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Man, but so when you're in that low moment, and then that white dude starts complaining about, man, the Asians are coming in here and they're
Mhm.
fucking taking over, and then you said, man, take over these nuts. I
Yeah,
said, oh my
man.
God.
I
Like,
did,
dude, I
bro.
needed to laugh so
But you
bad
know
in
what,
that.
fam? You saying that makes me I'm just so thankful because one, that's how I remember it, but also
Mhm.
it's hard now with like black lit because people get these terms that they want to apply whether they are applicable or not. And so
Mhm.
for me, yeah, like that shit is funny and it is utterly catastrophic that I'm giving away my fucking future next to
Yeah.
this fucking dude who thinks I'm American as him enough to be like, yeah, fuck the Asians for winning all the like he did that shit thinking he was gonna get a cosign, right? But
Right.
what I'm trying to say is like it's funny that he thought he was gonna get a cosign and he got a D's nuts, but that's only funny because like I mean it's funny to me that I'm in the middle of a fucking casino like 3 hours after payday. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what I want people to be able to do is the people that I love, they're gonna be able to feel and heal and hear some humor in that. And part of the reason they gonna laugh is because they've been there, fam. And they not gonna wanna fucking do that other thing that their body. So I want people's bodies to be in tension. Cause that's what my
Mhm.
body's intention with the best art. My body's always intention. Like, yeah, I'm gonna laugh at this shit because the art made me. But then in a few bars later, the art is gonna make me, reconsider my laughter. And you can't fucking tell people how to read your work. But I'm glad you laughed at that shit because it was funny and it was terrible.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like so like many different levels. And the other one, man, that I always, there's certain rap lines that I will never not think about on a daily basis.
Right?
There's like certain hip hop lines that, like, every single day something will come up that will make me think. And I mean, ever since Long Division came out, like, I think about the line, humming the beat to the Piggly Wiggly commercial. There's like, dude, it's so funny, and I can't put my finger on. So something about humming the beat to the commercial, and the thing is, like, I'm from Wisconsin and Michigan
Right.
and Minnesota. I don't know the beat to the Piggly Wiggly commercial.
Right.
I've never heard that before. You know what I mean? But it's funny. Like, I heard Seinfeld saying, it was like him and Chris Rock talking, and they're like really great friends up on the
Right.
comedy thing, and they're basically saying that, like, he's telling, like, Seinfeld is telling Rock, there's certain things that you say He's like, "I have no idea what that is." And or
Right.
I think they were talking about, listening to Richard Pryor, and he's like, "I have no" Seinfeld is like,
Right,
"I have no clue what he's talking about,
right,
but it's so real that I
right.
know how like, I know what he means just by the, like
Bruh,
just the that human connection and chain thing of, like, somebody just referencing something.
that
Mm,
phrase is so grown out of hip hop though, because
right,
the way it traditionally should be written is humming the song, or
right.
the jingle,
Yes,
but
yes.
us, we think everything is a beat, you know what I'm saying?
It's a
So,
beat.
and if you actually do know that song, it would be even funnier because it really ain't got a beat. It ain't really ain't got no beat. It's just, you know what I mean? So you humming some shit that ain't got a beat to it, which is what I spent my young years doing, like like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
but we'll put a little
exactly,
we'll put a beat
exactly, exactly. And
which is
you know
like
what I'm
that's
saying? Like, and we did that
mm,
shit first with Gilligan's Island. Like I think I think I don't know if I'm older than you now, but like you remember Gilligan's Island? Like,
yeah.
and so that was when people used to beatbox the Gilligan's Island shit. That to me was always so fresh because they were taking this song that we didn't associate as having a beat, and then the beatboxers were always like I don't know if it was Dougie or Human Beatbox or maybe Jockbox out of Connecticut, but one of them was doing that shit. That Gilligan's Island. And it always just made me think about how funny it is that we make everything into a beat when there ain't no beat there.
You know what that made me think of is like another one of our like big body brethren, the superheroes is Biz. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yes.
And Biz, like I know this now because my wife is from New York, and I don't know how I picked this up, but there's a store called The Wiz, and it's nobody beats the Wiz, nobody beats the Wiz,
And he took that.
nobody beats the Wiz. It's like a furniture store. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And so yeah, like humming the beat to the Piggly Wiggly commercial has in my mind is connected to nobody beats the Biz.
Wait, which came first though? Nobody beats the biz or the commercial?
The commercial was first. So that's what I'm saying. So
Oh,
like when they were doing that, New
wow.
Yorkers knew that they were flipping a commercial
Yo,
that was popular, but
bruh.
none of us knew that. Like we
No
didn't know. There's no
idea.
way for us to know that.
No idea. No idea. You know
Yeah.
the craziest story? Like I got kicked out of college in Mississippi and I went to finish my undergrad at Oberlin up in Ohio. And one
Mhm.
year it was, at all these colleges there's always beef with like people who from the town and the city and people who go to the college or whatever. And for whatever reason it was like it was the black men and boys at Oberlin were having some beef with the black men and boys in Oberlin the town, and it makes
Mhm.
no sense. But we called Biz Markie to come in there and try to Minister Farrakhan the shit, like squash the beef at a fucking basketball
Oh
tournament.
my god. Oh
Bruh,
my
we up there
god.
balling, and Biz just out there he had that mouth, and he had like his mouth was so demolished, like whatever he was doing in his mouth, everybody watching it. And then we paid this motherfucker whatever to come like squash a beef. This motherfucker watched us play basketball, did a concert and went home. Like, I mean, which is what he should have done. But the idea that he was out there, because we took him out, we took him out to this tournament, and in my mind, I was like, man, Biz gonna get us right. Man, Biz wasn't studying us, bro. Biz fucking like, man, when I'm gonna get my check tonight? It was so funny, man. It was so funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, man? Biz, yeah, I read Dapper Dan wrote a memoir and it's
Yep.
really dope. I love it, man.
I do
But
too.
he talks about the fact that, Dapper Dan very pro-black. His whole thing is like, he learned to tailor by taking
Yep.
a trip early on. He went to Africa. Most of the tailors in his man, I actually just met. So like we're connected. So my family, our teachers, like our Muslim teachers are in the Gambia, West Africa, and they're
Mhm.
connected to the family of Kunta Kinte. And
Wow.
so I'm in the Gambia, and there's this brother that's out like selling like fake Gucci stuff, and he's like, "This is Gucci, the best one, Gucci."
That's cool shit.
And and his nickname was Boy Boy. I don't know what his actual name was, but I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, this guy is like spitting image resemblance of Dapper Dan. I'm
Yo.
like, this guy looked just like Dapper Dan. So I was like, are you like what tribe are you? And he was Mandinka. So
Wow.
I took his picture and then a picture of Dapper Dan, and I showed them both to Kunta Kinte. It was like the descendant of Kunta
Yep.
Kinte.
Yep.
And I'm like, because their family is Mandinka. Mandinka is like it's a big deal to be Mandinka. You
Right.
can't marry their women. Their men can marry others, but you can't marry their women.
Wow.
It's like a big deal to be Mandinka. They never got defeated. That's one of the things me and Banner have like really connected on.
Uh-huh.
The Mandinka never got defeated because when Europeans came there, they're like, oh, these people, these Europeans don't have any honor in the way they fight. Like there's no honor. So
Right.
either they're going to beat you or you have to fight like them without any honor, and that
Exactly.
would be worse than being defeated. So
Absolutely,
they just
brother.
left. They just
That's
moved
it.
around. They're like, you know what? They only want these certain places, so we're going to let them have this land. But they refused to do that. So they were never defeated, at least in that part of the country. In any case, man. So I show him and I show him the picture of Dapper Dan, and he's like, Mandingo. That's Mandingo. He's Mandingo. I'm like, wow. So
Wow.
then reading the book, uh, a lot of his tailors and a lot of his like connection, a lot of his tailors in Harlem were from the Gambia and Senegal. And he actually named his son Jaylani, which is the name of the like
Wow.
my teachers is
Wow.
Muhammad Jaylani. Crazy.
I
Like the
love it,
same
bro.
family, same thing. So anyway, one of the things he says is that he's like, of all the rappers, the guy that I could really connect with the most, we had long conversations sitting in chairs outside my place in Harlem till 5 in the morning, was Bismarcky.
What?
It's a long way to get to the end of that. But
Wow.
he was saying that like more than Rakim, more than KRS, more than he
Wow.
mentions a bunch of rappers, but he said me and Biz would sit outside of my place and talk all night.
Bruh. I just
Crazy.
love that. I just love that. Because there's no that would have been the last in the last tier of people I thought you were gonna say would be Bismarck,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean, as someone who, you
Yeah.
know, listen to every song Biz ever made, understands the genius. It's just so interesting. I'm just so surprised when other people because Dapper Dan's genius seems so distinct from Biz's, right? Like
Mhm.
one of them, I mean, on the surface, one of them appears to be much more out the box,
Yeah.
but really they both out the box if you really push it. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, Dapper Dan's like a very, very hip hop clothing design. Like we're
Yes.
sampling. Like we're gonna buy Louis Vuitton bags and we're gonna line a Jeep with them, damn it. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So like when
Yeah.
when these drug dealers pull up, they have a genuine Louis Vuitton. Inside of the Jeep is Louis Vuitton and it's bulletproof.
Right. I mean, but if you think
Amazing.
about it, man, you think about that song, The Vapors, bruh. Like, see, now
Mhm.
I'm doing that thing we always do. I'm trying to like rational, like, yeah, it makes sense, right? Because I felt like The Vapors was so like ahead of its time. And
Mm.
even now, like for what it was attempting to do, which was talk about, it's kind of like a black, that Kendrick Lamar song, Black Boy Fly, just kind
Mhm.
of talking about being a jealous black boy. He was talking about being jealous of the
Mhm.
game and being jealous of Aaron Afalo and stuff like that. And yeah, like I love the way Biz is talking about, you know, giving a name to that shit, like being jealous and catching the vapors. You know what I mean? But that video is so funny because once they get on, they just keep doing they just keep limping around the boat. I don't know if you've seen that video lately, but
Oh yeah, of
they just
course.
they limp around the boat, man. They be man slow. So yeah.
Man, I love Biz's dances, man. There's like his dances are just the best, man. And I mean that was a time when like, his best friend is Big Daddy Kane. And Big
Right.
Daddy Kane is, smooth and got the abs out all the time. He's naked
All
with
the
Madonna
time.
in the book. And like,
Yeah.
man, and Kane is one of the sweet, I don't know if you ever had a chance to connect. Kane is one of the sweetest, most down to earth,
Wow.
dope, like really smart, really wise. His knowledge of black culture in general is extensive, man. Beautiful guy. He's like a, real life mentor to Jay-Z, just really amazing guy. But the two of them were together all the time. And so you think about the fact that Kane is coming out, and I mean, Kane right now in his 50s will do the splits and jump up and do raw,
Yes.
like in jeans if he
Yeah.
has to. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Just like no problem. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so for Biz to be in that environment, Scoop love with my brother, Scrap love with my other, and like all of these
Ooh.
guys like doing all these dance moves and everything. But man, when Biz started busting out those dances that he was doing, man, just from all of the footage I've seen and all the
Yeah.
stories I've heard. Yo, Kane told me, he's like, "Man, I could not." He's like, "Man, I had to pull the abs out."
To
Like,
to even
the
compete,
to yes, to be able to be on the same stage with
bro.
Biz,
That's
because he's like, "I would
crazy.
get on the stage and shaking them up and breaking them up and taking them up, taking them stuff, standing too short to go too close to the air," you know what I'm saying? All this stuff. Man, he said, man, Biz would come on and just like, "I'm the Emma AR key," and like,
Oh God. And that's Kane, who kind of had to rhyme like that and dance like that next to Scoop and Scrap, right? I mean, Kane was going through motherfuckers' legs just like they were. And so for him to
right.
be like, yo, for me to fucking like be a presence on the stage with Biz, I had to do it. Like, that's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things that I heard you reference was when Baldwin was saying, so I said this earlier, but in my mind, there's a distinct connection between you and Baldwin. The way that I feel, like I haven't felt the same way reading somebody since reading his stuff. The way that
Right.
that's how I feel when I read your stuff, and it speaks to me really directly in a lot of ways, you know. But you said that you quoted him as saying something to the effect of, the cost of becoming aware and conscious and empathetic and caring and tender is that now you are open to all of this pain that you're feeling. You're open to all of this pain that others are feeling.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like now you've signed up to the real brutality of what it is to live anyone's life, in anyone's body, in anyone's for anybody to love is just like a extremely dangerous, like you are in deep danger if you're in love.
Right.
You're in deep danger being a human being, dealing with
So
the human
dangerous.
condition, all this stuff. And then you add on all of these other like man-made just like feral, horrible systems of whatever else. Um, but then, I heard you talk about going to, is Millsap the name of the school you went
Yeah, the
to?
first one I went to was Millsaps. Yep.
And you were going, you went to school and you were playing ball,
Yeah.
and there's white guys on the team, and you're playing with each other, and there's that real camaraderie of playing ball together. And then after a while you start realizing like these guys are doing, they had like something that they called a ghetto party, which is basically people wearing Confederate flags as costumes and wearing
Yeah.
blackface and just all of the, and seeing those same guys, that are playing ball with you and showering and all the other, just all of that deep camaraderie of playing of playing sports together, and then seeing that. And you talk about this in a book, and like you and your mother like talk about this, but pouring your heart out and just sharing the like deep truths of yourself and your family,
Yeah.
in a way that like you're going to be gazed upon, witnessed, judged, thought about by people that hate you.
Right.
Like your enemies are going to read what you're saying.
Right.
And I have observations of what I think that might mean, but I'm curious if you could share like, what does that mean to you? What do you have to, what does it require of you to get to a place where you're just doing that anyway?
Yeah.
Is that a consideration I'm project like I think it is?
Yeah.
And what is it, what's that process like for you? Or like what is that thing?
Yeah, man. I mean, you can hear this in Banner too, bro. It's so paradoxical because the thing about growing up in Jackson, and I don't in Jackson, like most cities, is you got South, West, North, but most people I know who grew up where we grew up, like to fight. Do you know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean you can fight. But like we just grew up in a culture where the expectation is like my grandmama would get off work. If something happened, like she walk me around the corner, they'd be a little circle, key, go in there, you gonna fight Mondo. Why? Because I said, because of some shit that happened the other day. So, it goes back to what Banner was saying. It was honorable to be a circle around grandmamas, aunties, but you gonna fight. And I just think sometimes, fam, like I think that's wonderful, and I also think it's really bad because like we fight sometimes and we don't need to fight. But like I just come from people, as I was saying before, who, who gonna fight. We're gonna fight. But the thing I think that distinguishes us is that we cannot become them, fam. Like the thing about us that's still shocking is that, and people don't want to talk about this shit out loud, is that we are still sort of shocked by some of the shit that white people in Mississippi do. And I think like like every fucking thing good ever created, that there's still a part of us that can be shocked. And I know the flip side of the real radical motherfuckers is supposed to be like, we can't never be shocked. But my grandmama, bro, she grew up in 1929. She was shocked by fucking Donald Trump. This motherfucker
Mhm.
seen everything and she was shocked.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
January 6th, we know some shit is we anybody who can listen and watch and knows white people know, what the fuck they finna do to that Capitol.
Mhm.
And but we were still sort of, some of us were still shocked. I'm saying all that to say there's something in like my familial sort of DNA, my home state DNA, where we are as equally ready to fight and protect as we are to be shocked at people's inability to fucking like respect. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to give us props that we don't deserve, but that's just true, bro. And I just think when you got people who willing to fight, it doesn't mean you know how to fight again, but you willing to fight, but you
Mhm.
also can't help but be fucking like shocked at people's like just kindness to us. I mean, I just think that's like the bedrock of so much of our of black art that comes out of Mississippi, Like we want we want to love, we want to blah blah blah, but there's also something in us, brother, like is sort of just often just shocked by these people. And I
Mhm.
don't like saying that. I don't like the fact that they can surprise us. Um, but I think the fact that they can surprise us speaks to something in us that I want to hold on to forever. But at the same time, I want us to stop being surprised by them. So I'm saying, you see, you know what I mean? So it's a paradox. And I don't know, like,
Mhm.
what do you do with that paradox? I feel that same paradox in your heart.
For me, it's a bunch of levels and layers that, like, especially when I made the Shadows on the Sun record, like, I didn't have any kind of language for. So my parents are
Mm,
white, I'm albino, and I'm in the Midwest, and white people are just profoundly cruel to me. And I'm supposed to be the whitest white person ever, and it's
wow.
but I mean, that's not what it is. And
Right.
so my mother like dyed my hair. So we moved a lot. I was always like, along with looking different, I'm blind. I can't play sports. I can't see. I bump into stuff. I get lost. All the stuff that comes along with being albino. So my mom dyed my hair one time we moved, and she's like, "We're gonna dye your hair blonde. We're gonna get you some like tinted glasses so they can't see your eyes are red, and you can pass as a regular white boy." So
Wow.
I went through the whole process of basically like getting a conch. Like it stunk. We tried all this different stuff. Like the dye wouldn't take in my hair, turn my hair
Wow.
purple. And then also you know how gray hair just grows straight out.
Yeah.
So like the way my beard is, my head hair is like that too. So to lay it down like a white person hair, it's like I had to, it's like, I mean, almost like Murray's or
I
like,
was gonna
you know what I
say,
mean?
not the
like,
Murrays.
like not like we weren't using Murray's, they didn't know about that. But I mean, there was, thick gels and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I guess I look like that. And so I go to school, and I was 6, 7 years old at this time, and I was like deeply depressed. And man, this stuff, when you talk about hating your body, like I hated my body
Right.
and I'm not done. I'm still hating I
Right.
still am like, I don't know if I'll ever not.
Right.
I don't even think about a day when that won't be something that's a
Yeah.
thing. And so it was a elder black woman that like knew. So then there's also this thing where people in general are just confused about what albinism is. Most black people think all albinos are black, and most white people think the
Right.
same
Right.
thing.
Right.
So like I've had police pull guns on me and be like 6 foot black male, 280 pounds, and I'm just kind of like, all right, this has got a lot more dangerous than it would have been. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
bro.
like me and my father-in-law, my first father-in-law, we were sitting outside. Our wives were inside the grocery store shopping late at night, and we were sitting out in the car listening to the radio. And suddenly the spotlight on the car, the police like pulled us out. We just came from the mosque. We had suits on, laid us down on the ground, guns to our head. Like I could feel a gun to my head.
Oh, man.
And he's like searching under the car and all this stuff. This is in Minnesota and in the suburbs. And finally we get back in the car and they're like, "Oh, we just got a call that there's two black men in a Cadillac with guns and they were gonna rob the you know how they have like the little punk ass bank thing inside
Right.
the store sometimes
Yeah.
you can cash your check or whatever that was going to rob that. So I'm like, okay. So what happened was they saw us in the car and they didn't just want to call the police and be like, hey, there's black people here and we're scared. Can you just come do a
Yeah.
black person check? So
Right.
they lied and said we had guns so the police would come. You know, so this is like, this is how I'm growing up and how I'm living and all this kind of stuff. And so for me, and then I became a Muslim, and then my father died of suicide. My mother died of cancer. They both died relatively young. And so then I got this whole other thing where all the people that love me, nurture me, care for me were black until Brendan.
Yeah.
Brendan's the first white person to ever love me.
Wow.
That's
Damn.
Brendan's the first white person I ever loved. So, and he might still be the only one. He
Damn.
might still be the only one, right? So now I hate my body because it's part of the problem.
Wow.
So like every non-physical thing about me, I like. I
Right.
like my character. I like
Right.
how I love. I like how I even my mistakes. My
Right.
mistakes are because I tell too much truth and sometimes I hurt people and like that's every bit as wrong as anything else. But I'm like, man, I love my flaws even.
Yeah.
But all of that is none of that's physical. So
Right.
for me, this body is like first I hated my body because white people didn't accept it. And now I hate my body because it's like everything that I hate about in the world, my body is that. And then once the music started working out, then a bunch of white people were like, it's mixed. Like some white people see a black albino on stage, some of them see a fat white person on stage. So there are some that are like, okay, he's a rapper like any other rapper. But then there are some that are like, yeah, man, get that one in for the white guys, man.
Oh, shit.
So then I'm like on stage and there's this whole, you know, and then there's a white guy, and I as a practice, I don't say his name, but there's a white guy who I'm his favorite rapper, and he got a lot from me, and he won a Grammy doing it.
Yeah.
Chuck D told me it's the blackest thing about me. He's like, man, if
They
a white
stole
guy
from
steals your
white
shit and
person.
wins a Grammy, he's like, congratulations, you're in.
But let me ask you this though, fam.
Mm,
But well, and what do you do with the fact that you get so much love? And this is what I think speaks to that second part of that paradox.
yeah.
Like from us. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, do you feel it as like sincere love, or do you feel it as something
It's
else?
absolutely sincere.
Yeah.
Absolutely sincere.
So if you love
Absolutely
us
sincere.
and we love you, does that not help the physical? Like if you know what I'm saying? If we're able to find so much to love in you, I'm asking, does that help
Mhm.
like sort of calm the physical
So
anxiety?
so when I read you talking about it and dealing with it and working it out, it helps me tremendously. Um, but it's one of the things I've found through therapy is like I have like a unexamined, and I'm trying to look at it more and more as like I've always had an unexamined inferiority complex
Wow.
because of the fact that like everything and most of the people and all the you know all this stuff comes from one of the things. Resma Minikim is one of the people I talk to, as black therapist from Twin
Uh-huh.
Cities. Beautiful, amazing. If you haven't connected with him, you should really connect with him.
Yeah.
Um, but he said to me one time, he actually said on this show, he was like, "What would have happened if you could have got that from the people that you were born to?"
Wow.
And it's just like, man, you stop that right now.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
there's a weird like just inferiority complex because I'm like in some way all this beautiful stuff I'm participating in and even the thing that people celebrate me for in some way it's not really mine.
It's not yours, but what is it? Not whose is it? What is it? Because I think if you
So
say
the
whose
way
is it, it's more
mhm,
complicated. But what is it?
mhm.
Because you help
Well, I
define
mean
that
it
for me.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and then there's another thing where it's from God. I mean, this, it's
Right,
from God. I mean, it's from God.
right.
And that's nobody really has anything to say about it other than that.
That's right,
It's from God. I also believe that black people are original people,
right,
not only in the story, but like in the sense of like being human and being
right,
human in all the ways that there are to be human,
right.
for better and worse. And other people have tried to, you know, beat and rape and steal and lie and the humanity out, but it doesn't work. You just take the worldly stuff away, and it's still just the humanity is there. So yeah, man, it's something that I really work on.
What's
But
that
one of the things
chorus,
that
man? What's that
mm,
chorus to that song? What's the song? It's your song, "Pay Your Dues" or "Pay Your Respect."
yeah,
Um,
at least yeah. Beneath
what's
the
the
outer
chorus?
layer, the train is black. This is during the time of Eminem. Beneath the outer layer,
Yeah,
and also like there's this like cohort of like the like first comers of like dope white guys in the underground.
yes.
So like LP and all these dudes, I'm like, they are legitimately nice and creative, and they're not trying to steal. You know what I'm saying? Like they're around the culture. They're from the culture. No denying it.
But that chorus is the most important chorus. Can you spit it for me?
Yeah, beneath the outer layer, the train is black. You just don't disrespect the people that laid the tracks. You love this human expression, and they gave you that, so the least you could do is try to pay them back. You know,
Bruh. But you've been on it, fam. Like that's the ill thing about talking to you is that I don't know if this is true, but I mean we having conversations in 2022 that you literally started. And I'm not saying you start. I mean you contributed to starting over damn near 2 decades ago. But that to me is a debt song. It's a reparation song. It's a repair
mhm,
song. It's a familial like a familial repair song.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and that chorus, fam, like it's one of those choruses that's too. Sometimes the choruses be too good, and because they're
mhm,
choruses, motherfuckers ain't gonna really listen to it. They just go listen to
mm,
like the sound of it. But to me,
mhm.
fam, like that to me, that chorus says everything. It's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do to pay that back? And
The other
I mean,
thing
is
about
that
it is like
yeah,
the other thing that makes me know that it's from God is that there are certain people that I really dig. Like I really like their art. When every time they make something, I want to hear it. Like I'm the first to get it. But then there's another category of people that it's like, I don't just love this person's art. I love this person. I know him even though I've never met him.
right.
And every single one of those people that I feel that way about, when I meet them, it's true.
It's
And you're
true.
one of the people that like, man, I've loved you
True.
for like 10 years. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Man,
Not like
that's
not just that
crazy.
I love how to kill yourself, not just that I love long division and heavy. Like I love you.
I
And
love you too, bro.
when you're writing this stuff, man, I'm like, man, ah, like damn, like I wish I could have been there.
You were there, motherfucker. Like that's what I'm telling you, fam. Like, do you understand? Do you
Oh man.
understand that? Like I don't. If it was, I hate when people do this shit to me because
Hmm.
I got problems and issues, but
Hmm.
my G, like that without shadows in the sun, like there definitely is no how to slowly. But when I'm talking about heavy, when I'm finally trying to sit in some of that shit, man. Look,
Hmm.
the shit
Hmm.
you did the shit you did on in the totality of your work. But Forrest Whitaker for me, bro, was like that to me was a kind. I hate when people do this, but sadly, I wasn't looking at no therapy back then. And for me, that
Hmm.
song was a kind of therapy. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
how do I look at my body and assess it sincerely and humorously with the understanding that sincere humorously is the only way I can be honest about this body. And then you start trying to put it on page. It took me like 3 or 4 years, but I wouldn't have done that without Forrest Whitaker, fam. Like, and just your ability to craft the first lines. The first lines, bro. You ill with them first lines. Them first
Well, that's
lines
all
be
from Chuck.
monsters, bro.
That's from
Oh,
Chuck
Chuck
D.
is the, I mean, Chuck is the he is the guy. I mean, he's the foundation for that shit,
Yeah.
right? He's the
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah, all of them had great first lines, but Chuck, I think, and Chuck was we talked to the Chuck, one of my dear friends, mentors, and like Chuck's thing, like it comes from radio, and so he understood like a presentation, like you have to have a first line that really grasps people, and then the rest of the song you pull him in and you expand on it and all that kind of stuff. But just man, his first lines are like nothing else. Are like it's the best of times, it was the worst of times. You know what I mean?
Bruh,
They're like
remember that one song? It shit don't even rhyme. This is a perfect example of what you're saying. Black Steel in Our Chaos. I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened it, read it. It said they were suckers. What the fuck kind
suckers.
of line is that? Like, ain't no rhyme. I
Right.
opened it, read it. It said they were suckers. Like, that's the first line. Like,
Yeah, man.
bruh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny too is that not funny, but it's just like another part of like this whole like thing with my whole thing is like there are people who really deeply like the main criticism if people criticize me, it's that they're like, man, and I knew when Rachel Dolezal came out, I was like,
Mm.
people are gonna accuse me of that. You know what I mean? I knew
Wow.
I was like, that's I'm getting accused of that. I know it. Damn it. You know what I mean?
Did it happen?
Like, yeah. Yeah. There are people all the time that are like, you lied, you said you were black. And like, no, but but at the same time, I do understand. It's understandable. You know what I mean? Like if I had like crafted a brand, like if I had like gone through a branding, workshop or something like that, they talk about brand confusion. They're like, what if someone thinks that this brand is this? You know what I mean? The name Brother Ali and the stuff I talk about and being so ill and all that kind of stuff. You know what I
Being
mean?
so Nah, I mean,
You know,
but it's just so I think it's interesting, like, you for me were always one of those people, bro, like, and I hate to reduce you to this, but I hope you can see the humor in it, where the black people who kinda weren't sure were just like, we claiming him. We don't give a fuck what he is. Like he black. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who rock with me was like like Brother Ali black. You know what I mean? Even though we knew if you really listen to the lyrics and the words, for me there was never a question. But we also thought everybody who was albino was black. In Mississippi, if you albino,
right.
like we literally thinking you black. Like
Yes.
and I mean, literally, bro. Like, literally, like the idea of a white albino growing up in Mississippi, and granted, it's the blackest state in the union, but was like it was confusing. But your
Yeah.
album was one of the things that helped like not confuse me about that shit anymore. But yeah, fam, I hate that you
Have
had to go through that. I had no idea you
well,
was going through no
I
Rachel
mean, it's
Dolezal type shit.
it's not a lot, but and it's one of those things that like so on my first album, I didn't know how to talk about that. I say, and so on the first record, there's a song where these white boys are jumping me because these are like the white boys that wanted to be down. They listen to NWA and wore Raiders
Right,
hats like in the time when we were in school. They wanted to be down and they hated me because of the fact that I was actually accepted.
right,
You know what I'm saying? And so they always hated me. They made up a reason to jump me, whatever. And in the song, I say, "You're lucky I'm a righteous black man. You thought I had issues. Nah, I really had them back then." So it was like I was really like did not know what to make of
right.
all of this stuff, and I knew that that was there, and so I was like, man, full. Man, I met Minister Farrakhan, and Minister Farrakhan was so sweet to me, and no, really, really, really. He was just like, "This is my Muslim brother. He's a Muslim." And I mean, like all of his head ministers are there, and his wife was there. And my dear friend Amir Suleiman was there, great poet. Do you
Ooh,
know Amir
oh
Suleiman?
my goodness, the work. I know the
Do y'all
work.
know each other?
Nah, I don't
Okay.
think we ever
You
met, but I know the work,
you
definitely.
and Amir have to know each other. Like have to. It's not a like you and Amir have to know. Amir is one of my dearest friends. So me and Amir are sitting there with Minister Farrakhan. And Minister Farrakhan is like, he starts doing like talking about me. You don't know what he's been through. His people didn't accept him, and he tells you this whole thing, and it's just like, and I'm crying because it's Farrakhan. You know what
Wow,
I'm saying? And it's like, man, all our lives we hear that voice
wow,
and see
all
that
our
face, and
lives.
then you're standing there, and then when that face looks at you, and Baldwin says he met Minister Farrakhan and wanted to dive, or met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to dive into his arms and ask him to be my father, but
Yep.
he's like, the religion thing was just too much of a hang up for me. I just couldn't
Right.
do it. You know what I mean? But I basically did that with
You
Minister
reached up in his
Farrakhan. I I mean, they were like, "The minister's getting on in years, and there's germs, and so, like, don't shake his hand." And I went in
Wow.
there, and I got on the floor, and I was just kissing his hand. I wasn't shaking it. I
Wow.
was just, you know what I
Bruh.
mean? And, but after
Yeah.
we got done, we came out of the thing, and I asked Amir, I was like, "Did the minister think I was black?" And he was like, "No, he knew, he knew." And I was like,
Mm.
"Okay."
Yeah.
It's, like, always
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about the fact that things that seem mundane, things that we take for granted, parts of life that we just are like we don't even necessarily think about, they actually play a big role. They're the things that we're experiencing throughout our day, throughout our week, throughout our month and year, throughout our lives. And everything has impact on everything. It all impacts each other. Creation is one. The Muslims believe that the creator is one. And so the creation is also one. It's one creation, willed into being exactly as it is by one creator. And so that all of the things are connected. And so that means that all the parts of our lives are connected, and all the things that we experience, they're not detached from each other, and they're not divided. And so, um, Udimentary is a company that deals with a product called Oud. A lot of us are starting to learn more about, aromatherapy, the somatic importance of in therapy in general. So many times we go through trauma, and we're experiencing anxiety, we're experiencing depression. A lot of times these things bring along with them trauma, depression, anxiety. A lot of times they bring about what they call dissociation, which means that we are not really experiencing so much where our bodies are. We're not really experiencing here and now. We start to really live in the world of imagination, and in the world of thinking about other times, whether they be, bad things that we think about the future, or things that we ruminate about the past. Or sometimes I find myself, people I've fallen out with, I have conversations with them in my head where they talk about people living in your head rent free. I have conversations with people in my head that I fell out with, and I'm always losing the argument. Like, just like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? But one of the ways to really deal with this very real phenomenon of dissociating is to get in our physical senses and to come back into our body. So to touch things that feel nice, to listen to things that sound nice, and to become more present in our bodies is like re-entering our body. But one of the ways that we do that is with smell. And so aromatherapy is a real thing. And Udimentary is a company that deals in oud, OUD. Oud comes from aloes wood that grow trees that grow in Southeast Asia. They're attacked by fungus, and they produce a natural antibody to fight the fungus. That antibody smells incredible. And so if you distill it into oil like Udimentary does, it's like nothing you've ever smelled in the world. I wish that I could give you all a sample. I wish I could give you this feeling, but I can't. So you have to go to udimentary.com. Also, if you burn the wood, like on a piece of coal, the scent that it gives is like nothing else in the world. And it's mentioned in scripture and all this other stuff. But Udimentary does it in a way that's sustainable. They're in partnership with the people who have, their families have lived with these trees for years and for generations. And also, one of the heads of Udimentary actually is a therapist. Another one is deals in he's a personal trainer, he's a football player and a jujitsu champion, and so this stuff comes from people in our community that care. So head to Udimentary, Udimentary. When you go to checkout, put in travelers, you get a little something off it because we're cool like that. And check out all the things that they offer. They got a wide variety of stuff. Some of it's very inexpensive, like medical grade frankincense. They sell Arabic coffee blends that is like coffee and spices and things like that that come directly from those communities, and super dope, all the way up to really high end stuff. There's like select private reserve age Cambodia oil that's going to be really expensive. But I'm telling you, whatever you spend, you're going to smell it. And if you start living your life smelling that and smelling like that, it's going to change your reality. And so I'm very honored to be partnered with Udamentary. A lot of the conversations we have on this podcast are about masculinity and about, what it means to be a man. This is something we've been dealing with for a long time, and I feel like it's something that people understood. People's gone by understood more about that than we do, and we certainly have a lot of healing to do. We certainly have a lot of growing and learning to do. Learning to be uh, virtuous in the full spectrum of virtue as men. So learning to be dependable, reliable, learning to provide, learning to also be tender, also learning to also be vulnerable. And so much of this comes from the world of meaning, the world of virtue. So we're partnered with this company called Mystic Man, mystic-man.com. If you go there, you're going to see a line of products that deals with men's hair care and grooming, specifically around beards. That's kind of the center of the work. But I mean, it really is for, hair care in general and for skin care and things like that. But Mystic Man is based on, it's a Iranian American brother, Justin Mashouf. I've said this all the time, but he's a b-boy, and that matters to me. You know what I'm saying? And he's an artist, and that matters to me too. But he also is somebody that is deeply connected to his people's spiritual and cultural and healing traditions. And so sacred cedar is something that's used around the world. The First Nations people in America use sacred cedar. But cedar, it has tremendous healing properties. It also smells amazing. And so Justin Mashouf has released this line of products. He's been working on it for years, called Mystic Man, which basically means that we want to be men that are motivated by the world of meaning, the world of virtue, the world of, this full spectrum that we're talking about, of being loving and being good and being virtuous and being useful and, you know, all of these things that we're seeking. It's like we're travelers, right? So what are we traveling towards? We're traveling towards being the full version of what our creator intended when we were created and brought into being. And so that's what Mystic Man represents. So it's all this really dope, beautiful smelling stuff that's, it's healthy, it has healing qualities and promotes hair growth and also makes the beard and the hair look beautiful, smell beautiful, put a little shine on it. Um, but then also I always talk about the fact that you get a handmade wooden comb with the order. I mean, it's just like, man, who does stuff like that? My man Justin Mashouf does. Mystic Man. So head to mystic-man.com, check out all their stuff, order their stuff. When you go to the checkout, put in travelers, and you get a little something off because we're cool like that. So have white people got around to biting your type of writing yet?
Damn,
Because
bro.
that's coming.
Oh,
That's coming. There will be a white
it's
person.
here. It's here.
Okay.
It's
All right.
here. It's here. I don't know, man. It's hard to talk about this part, so I'll just be real. I mean, if you read a lot of like the new memoirs coming out, like celebrities, you can see people
Mm-hmm.
kind of imitating the rhythm of it, especially like the first chapter. But again, man, like I'm a wannabe rapper. Like, what I'm gonna be mad about that shit for? You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
did like because one of the things you do when you try to write a book like that is you want to try to create a style that ultimately feel
Mm-hmm.
singularly yours, even if it's like a
That's
lot
right.
of different people's styles. But and
Yeah.
I feel like I know that's what like your shit. You want people to be like, yo, that's KSA's writing is singular, and then you want to try to change
Absolutely.
it with the next book or whatever. But yeah, of course,
Yes.
but that's just the market. The book sold, so some people who want to get put on, whether they want to write like that or not, started trying to write like that. Like I get it. It's what I don't like is when people, it's just like when you bite somebody's shit and you don't just like you can't, I know you bit my shit, like just be like, what's up? But you don't have to like pay me or nothing, but you know, some people bite your shit and they're like, "Yo, I tried to take that rhythm you use in the first in the prologue for my shit." And I'm like, "Yo, I tried to take I tried to flip, Baldwin's letter to his uncle to his nephew and something, like so yeah, but people just don't be honest when they be stealing, bro. Like that's the shit I don't like, but what you gonna do?
Eminem, when Eminem won his Grammy, he stood up and he had a do-rag on when he did it, but Eminem stood up and he knew that white America had never heard that multi-syllable type
Right.
of like very intricate rhyming before they heard him. And so he stood up and pulled a little wrinkled piece of paper out of his pocket and said, "Cool G rap,
I love that,
Tretch."
bro.
He went down this whole list
I loved
of
it,
like
bro.
he's like, "These are the people." And I think that he was comfortable doing that, first of all, because he does come from the culture.
Right.
But then he was trained and he was raised and he was fought and loved and smacked and
Yep.
joked on and made jokes and the whole thing. He really experienced that. But then also he knew that he had added something. So you could go listen to Cool G rap
Right.
and you could hear what you could hear what that like he's the one that lit the match for
Yep.
Eminem to be
Yep.
like, "Oh, okay." Because he's part of hip hop. So he's like
Right.
hearing all of it. But
Right.
then you can also hear what Eminem added on to
Yep.
that didn't exist before him,
That's right.
you know. And really that's all it is. With race in general in America is like, man, I think if the gaslighting element of it were just taken away,
Right.
I think that would even if we do, like obviously we got to get to the point of reparations. Obviously we got to get to the point of like real equity and real all of this, but I mean just a beginning place of like, can we just start to like what you're saying at the end of Heavy and the way that you tie it in your conversation with yourself, your conversation with your mom, and the conversation about America. Like
Yeah.
we lie the way Americans lie. This is the most American thing we do. And we hurt the way Americans hurt. We kill how Americans kill. The tying in and the connecting of all of that, man, is just so profoundly real. And you know, it's like that being such a the starting place of it all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I,
That's
I
right.
also love the fact that at the end of Heavy, you're not like, and then it was all good.
Nah.
You know what I mean? And
Nah.
then we all, but it's just like,
Nah.
but you end at the place of like, can we start being more honest with each other? Can we start bringing in things to the conversation that weren't there before?
Yeah.
You know?
And then the spirit of hip hop, like with people who love you, like because I think sometimes over we get so stuck on like, how do you talk to Republicans? I don't give a fuck. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
do you talk to these people across the tracks? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm not loving in my house worth a damn. So let me try to work on that. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think, bro, like we don't have a chance until we get better at loving like the people we say we love. And I think that you talk about gaslighting. I think the gaslighting conversation that we love to have in this country is all about how do you love across difference and all that. You know what I mean? Like, well, okay, I got it. I kind of sort of hear what y'all are saying, but I'm much more interested in how we love the people we say we love, how we love the ideas we say we love. And this is the thing about hip hop. Again, hip hop has been having these conversations forever. Remember when people always talking about, do you love hip hop or not? When people were trying to, make hip hop this metaphor as a woman and all that shit. Like, my whole thing was like, how do you know if you love some shit or not? You got to be able to like witness and, go back to your first works. And I just think we don't have a chance, bro, unless we get better at loving the people and the ideas and the fight that we say we love. And that's really what I'm trying to get better at with the art, using art to get better at that.
And really, yeah, absolutely, and giving space for what I think all of your work. A lot of people are probably focusing on Heavy, but all of your and now that How to Slowly is reissued, like this just the
Right.
story of that. I mean, that's the most hip hop shit of all time. You know what I mean? Like, man,
Man, I
yeah,
was
I
trying, bro.
remember
I was
he's like,
trying.
man, I sold my first classic for a chain and Puma sweats. You know what I mean? And got
Yeah.
it back, man. I mean, that's one of the most hip hop. So for anybody that's listening doesn't know the story, You write this incredible book. So many people are trying to get you to edit it in ways that are just are unacceptable. You finally found one that'll let you put out a kind of sort of version of what you wanted to put out, but they gave you did this people really give you $1,000 and
Yeah, how
10%?
to slowly was sold for a G. I got a G for that. 500 up front, 500 after it came out. I got a G for
Not
that
even
book.
a full 1,000, not even a full G. Like you
I ain't get a full
like I can't
1,000,
give you
bruh.
the
I got
full
a
$1,000.
he gave me 500 for signing. But you know what's ill? I bought that shit back for 50,000 because I
Mm,
also sold all my TV rights, all my film rights, all my worldwide rights. I mean, you talk about a rapper. I signed a Master P deal, bro.
that's right.
I signed one of them locks deals, man. I mean, like it was bad, and so he paid 1,000 for it. We sold like 40,000 copies. I got my money up, and then I paid 50 to get it back, with the understanding that I had to get it back if I wanted to sell the film rights. Because if I sold the film rights as was, he would have got all the money. So I bought all the shit back. And
Mhm.
long story short, man, we just sold TV rights to Trevor Noah and them like last week.
Crazy.
So yeah, it worked
What?
out. I mean, so yeah, and I'm writing the TV show. I'm writing it's gonna be a limited series. I'm writing it, and but yeah, that's a rapper shit. That's a rapper shit, bro. You gotta, but he bought it for a
Absolutely, man.
G. He bought it for a
Yeah.
G. He bought it for $1,000, made 90% or 85% of all sales. And then when I was like, man, can I just get my book back? He was like, make an offer. I was like, what? He's like, you got to make an offer. So I paid 50 for both of them, Long Division and How to Slowly. And then I just sold How to Slowly for no long I just sold Long Division to Trevor Noah and them to make it, and I'm writing a TV show. So, it worked out. So
That's incredible. That's
yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. What's I mean I don't want you to have to give away your, y I mean, can you say anything about I'm just hella curious now, I had no idea about that. Like, what's the format? Like, what's the you know what I mean? Anything you feel like sharing about?
Oh, Long Division. It's gonna be wild, bro. Like I'm doing a lot of TV writing right now. I got some stuff that people probably gonna hear about with I'm doing some stuff with incredible people, me and I don't even know if I'm not even supposed to say some of this stuff, but
Yeah,
I got
man,
some
don't
good
say
TV.
it.
I got some good TV and film shit going out, and I don't know if y'all know Arthur Jafa. He's like the most incredible artist to me in the world. But
Mhm.
I'm working on his film, doing some stuff with Donald Glover, TV and film, and yeah, I get the right Long Division, fam. So I'm just trying to make that shit I'm trying to make that shit crazy as fuck. That's all. And we'll see. We'll see. And inspire some people in my city to keep making art. That's what I want to do. So we'll see. We'll see how it's
I
gonna turn out.
hope you get the rights to the beat for the Piggly Wiggly commercial. Hope you
Oh,
get the rights.
that might be that might be the intro, bro. Now
The
that you
trailer?
said that,
Man, we
it's
get
gonna be Wayne
can we
brushes
get
and
Dougie Fresh to beatbox the beat
yo,
for the pic
yo, that would be crazy. Yo. Dougie
man,
Fresh versus one of them what you call those acapella groups at the white colleges? I would love to see Dougie Fresh versus an acapella group, like a
talking about
versus
Here Comes Treble?
yes, yes, here comes Dougie Fresh versus Here Comes Treble doing the Piggly Wiggly beat. Who you got?
Andy Bernard and them from Stanford. Ever heard of it?
Oh
Oh,
man, I'm so
man.
thankful, bro. I'm so thankful.
Nah, man. I love you, and there's so much I got 100 other things I could ask you about, man, but, I just want the way that you d there's so much that's healing, and there's so much that's, like, instructive for the soul and the body, in what you're doing, but the way that you really not even describe love, but embody love and, um, model love,
Yeah,
particularly with your mom. You
yeah,
know, just to have a real because when you say like absolutely we need to love and we need to be instructed in loving and we've been told so many lies about what loving is
Mm.
to where, we do all sorts of things. We do a lot of horrible things in the name of love and in search of love. Like
Most
Amir Suleiman
definitely.
says, I've learned that the thing that draws a fiend to the pipe is the same thing that draws a human being to the light,
Woo!
the love of love,
Yep.
like the need that we have to love. And I mean, love is almost like trying to find what tribe your people might have been from. It's like something that we hear that like people used to do. It's like a story in the Bible or like you know what I mean? It's like it feels so distant.
Yeah.
But the if there's any one thing that I could say that I get more than anything, is just, you the what I get, it's like it's the traveling journal of a person who is setting out, seeking what it would be to actually love.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I think that's it for most of the work, bruh. And like with heavy is just like, um, I don't know how many other people had this experience, but for me, it was just like my mom when I was a young boy and she won like a little jackpot at the casino and she was on her knees,
Mhm,
she was so happy raking them little fucking nickels. And And then I remember when we got back to my auntie house, like she danced. She was slow dancing with me. And bro, when I was a little child, man, like all I wanted to do was make my mama feel whatever that thing was. You know what I'm saying? Like that
mm,
thing that can make her so happy.
mm,
And then you get older and you learn that that thing is capitalism. You talk about gaslighting, like that thing is like, here, I'm gonna promise you that you could win $100,000 if you put every dime you make into this machine, you know. And so what if you
mhm,
lost every dime you made the last 5 6 years? You got to put another year's worth of money into the machine and then you might win. Like that's casino life, right? But the
mhm,
point is, when my mama won, she was so happy. And so for me, man, heavy, I just want to say this was like trying to talk about, sometimes we try to figure out different words for love, but like my mama loved me and I loved her, but that love at different times was so like absolutely destructive. And so what happens when you lovingly look at destructive love? And that's what I wanted to say. And I wanted to kind of clear out the fucking reader. I wanted to write this directly to her because she loved me better and more than anybody in the world. And she also loved me worse than anybody in the world. And I think I became her whether I wanted to or not. And so I just had, Baldwin always talks about how he had to write Giovanni's Room to go before he could do anything else. Like this,
mhm.
this just that book. I just had to get this one out before I could do anything else. And I just appreciate you giving it any time. You know what I mean? Like, thank you, man. Thank you for your work, but thank you for giving that book any time for sure.
But yeah, man, just for your sacrifice and for the journey that you made and for making it available, to others, man, to me, to me, for making you just said things that I learned so much about myself from what you shared and things that I wasn't ready to say to myself.
Right.
And you saying them to yourself and to your mom, and those things, were it soothed me into a part of the truth that I don't know how else I would have, but God gave it to me like that.
Yeah.
That's what was written.
I'm so
And
happy that you could hear anything in there though, fam, because you inspired it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just respect you as a artist, like more than motherfucker can be respected. And so for you to even just,
that
man, you don't even know, cuz you don't even
I
know,
do because
man.
yeah, I do because I feel the same way. And you're like Dr. West. I've listened to Dr. West. I listen to Chuck D. I listen to Rakim. There's all these people that I listen to, and I'm like, there's a lot of rappers I like. I love Chuck D. Like he's like, I
Yeah.
wish he was my dad. And
Right,
then
right.
I meet him and he's like, yeah, I'll kind of be your dad. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh,
But like, man, all these people that I feel like I already know, when I connect with them, it's real. So
it's
like,
real.
man, I had no idea that the connection with Shadows on the Sun. Somebody sent me a tweet, or I think it was a tweet or maybe a Facebook thing where you had mentioned Shadows on the Sun, and somebody sent it to me because they had heard me talking about
Oh,
Long
word?
Division. Yeah, they were like, "Man, the dude that wrote Long Division knows your music," and I was like,
That's
"Yo."
fucking crazy, bruh. Knows your music. But they I be man, I wish we could have gotten some students on here to talk about how I literally was teaching, have been teaching Shadows in the Sun when I first got my teaching job, 2001. Moved to New York, towers come down. I'm teaching that shit from like 2004 to like 2014, like in creative writing classes, and then in a
Mhm,
class called Narratives of the Underground. So for me, it was like a craft book, but also it was a culture book, and also it was a book on like how to look at oneself and describe flinching. You know, people always like look at yourself and don't flinch. I feel like in Shadows of the Sun, you look at yourself and you fucking flinch, but then you just
mhm.
describe it. You know, you describe it. Like that's the beauty in what we do, bro. Like it's not like don't be scared. It's like fucking be scared as fuck. Now have the will to fucking describe that fear in ways you never seen it. And you can't do that if you all on some like, oh, I ain't scared type shit, you know, like ah da da. So anyway, fam, like your work has just meant the world to me and impacted me personally and artistically. So thank you.
Yeah, I it's like from the second I encountered you, I was like, "We already know each other and we already love each other.
Yeah,
We're already brothers."
it's
And then
real.
these things happen, it's just a confirmation.
Let me
It's a
ask you one
confirmation
question.
from God.
Let me ask you,
Anything.
Istanbul, are you there for good?
Oh,
Uh-oh.
absolutely though, brother. That's a deep, profound mooring to wrestle with, though, the internal reality of stepping away from the project of American empire, though, brother. Nah, I mean, it's like, so I don't know. I like the short answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that man, I read No Name in the Street before I
Yeah.
came here.
Yeah.
And, Baldwin spent a lot of time here. People don't really
Right.
talk that much about it.
Right.
They talk about Paris, but Baldwin said that this is the place on earth where he just felt left alone.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
people just left him alone. Um, and there's like, Istanbul really represents something to me. Uh, that's like I can't. I'm still learning what it means, but there's something about like when you talk about fighting, I mean, we're fighters. Like that's part of what
Right.
we are, it's part of who we are.
Right.
When
Right.
I'm in America, I have to fight every moment of that,
Yeah.
every waking and sleeping moment. I
Yeah.
fight in my dreams. I wake up fighting. I
Yeah.
go to sleep fighting. I eat fighting. I shit fighting. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When I'm in this particular place, it really feels like, man, what if the place you lived was actually helping you be the person you would like to be?
God damn.
So when I'm here, I walk up and down hills and I lose weight without trying.
Mm.
And I laugh and I cry and I like, they call the call to prayer 5 times a day. People are always like, Brother Ali's a devout Muslim. Like, like I be telling Allah, like, I didn't say that, right? I just said I was
Wow.
Muslim. I
Wow.
just said I was Muslim, which means I
Right.
publicly declare that I
Right.
believe in this thing.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, man, when I'm here, it's like, they make the call to prayer 5 times a day, and every 3 blocks, there's a beautiful mosque to go pray in, and there's just regular people up in there praying, and there's like, it's not a fairy tale to these people. It's not mystical, magical. Like,
Yeah.
they go through the heart. Like, man, when your neighbors die, they bring their body, not embalmed. They bring their body like covered in a cloth, and they put them on a concrete slab in front of your neighborhood mosque, which is like 3 blocks from the crib, and you see the outline of their body, and their relatives are standing, and you go and you pray with all your neighbors, and like we're not wearing robes, and like we don't smell like berries and fruits, and like
Yeah.
we're just out there smelling like we smell, wearing
Yeah.
whatever we are wearing that day. You come outside and you pray over the person, and then you go to the loved ones and you give them money, or you can hug them, or you can console them, or half the people there aren't even they're secular, they don't even believe in Islam, but they're outside because their neighbor died, and then they take them and they just put them in the ground like the day after they died.
Wow.
It's like there's something about even the way that Islam is done here, but then also the Muslims here sing and dance in the mosque, And like there's a mosque here that I bring people to, and I'm like, you can go to the Blue Mosque, that's cool. But there's one called the Suleymaniya that looks like Curtis Mayfield should be reciting the Quran in there. It's like like literally it looks like, I don't know, man. It's like this orangish red color, and it's just like they understand that aesthetics are necessary for the heart. Like the heart
Mm,
needs to see beautiful things, and
mhm,
that there's a saying that they have, beauty is the splendor of truth. Like beautiful things give voice to the unseen truth. So there's something about this place, but I feel the same way in West Africa, kind of.
mm, mhm,
And so like I will say there's a particular person in my mind, my organizer, my former organizer. I hear his voice say to me almost every day, and he's never said it. We're not speaking right now, but he's like, "You're running away." That's the other
wow,
part. There's like a thing in the back of my head that's like, "You're running away," because there's also a part of me that's like, what white people should do is build culture and build actual
mm,
white community around being anti-racist.
mhm,
That's what's never been done. Everything else has been done
mhm,
almost. I mean, whatever. But like, so there's like all these white people that listen to me rapping, and some of them convert to Islam with us and stuff. So there's part of me that's, I feel like I'm running away, and I feel like I'm more alive than ever. And it's
mhm,
just like everything else in this place, man. It's all that stuff mixed in together,
yeah.
you know.
But as long as you running into an understanding of what you're running to and from, like that's it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the running is not the problem. It's like the running when you don't actually like recollect where your direction you going. Cause sometimes you think you're running from something when you're running to shit. And I
Mm,
feel you, fam. I just want to say I feel you deeply on that. But I also just feel like running away is sort of underrated for some people. Um, Especially if you're running away with other people. I mean, I'm saying is that as people, people from Mississippi who ran north, then they ran back, then they ran north, then they ran back. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying
yeah.
I think sometimes
I mean,
we
I
underestimate.
think about your grandmother saying, like, I know that, like, all of the people, all her descendants are teachers,
Yeah.
and most of them moved out, and she was like, "I'm not leaving.
Nah.
I made this place. this belongs to me as much as anybody else,
Yep.
and I won't be leaving here. So you guys can go
Yeah.
do whatever you want,
That
and then
shit was
come on back."
wild. That
And
shit is wilder than me every day of my life, man. I'm writing this new book about specifically about that right now, and um, I don't know if that was the right decision, but she did it though. She stayed. She the only one who stayed. But she, you know what? She had a little bit of land. Like she had a little garden. She got the church to build her little shotgun house, and she just wasn't leaving. She like, I worked this land. I'm not leaving. I'm not seeing this shit. And
mhm,
then everybody who left, ironically, came back to her to die. So all of her sisters and her brothers and a few of her nieces, her son, they all came back to that same house to die after they went north. So anyway, man. So who knows? We running and we got this art shit to kind of recollect and kind of assess what we
mhm.
doing. But anyway, I'm just thankful. Thank you for this time, fam. I'm
Nah,
so
thank you,
thankful.
man.
I love you
We
deeply,
do.
bro. I love you deeply.
I
Thank
love you, brother. I love you, man. This just feels like one of our many talks we've been having for,
you. Yes,
it's, and also we got many more to come.
absolutely. Thank you.
Talk soon, family.
All right, peace.
Special thanks to Kiese Layman, my first time talking to a longtime friend. I'm just really grateful. This everything about this whole conversation, and just the connections that we have with people, the heart level connections that we have with people, the way that these are the kind of conversations that made me the person I am. And it's weird because like me and Amir Suleiman talk like this a lot, but for whatever reason we got on the podcast, it didn't quite get to this place. And maybe it's because we do it so much off the mic that when the microphone's turned on, I don't know. But these are the kind of conversations that have made me who I am. these are the kind of relationships, and there's many others. There's many versions of this, but just being able to really sit and reflect and share, and also validate each other, and also, genuinely love each other. Um, it's just really a gift. It's the greatest gift. I mean, I would, if I had to get, it's like my family, and then these relationships, these kind of conversations. If I had to give it all away and only keep one thing, it would be like, man, my connection with the divine and the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, my faith, my family, and these kind of conversations. I could live without people knowing my music. I could live without whatever little bit of whatever I have in the bank sometimes. I could live without my coffee. I could live without, I could live without all this stuff. I don't think I could make it without these kind of connections, So being able to share them also with you all is really dope. Special thanks to Zakat Foundation, Mystic Man. Special thanks to Udamentary. Special thanks to Amna Mirza, Mansour Panawala, Darren Washington, Last Word, Aida Rashid. Special thanks to Amir Rahman, Chris Jeffords. Shout out to all the people in the caravan, especially that top tier in the caravan. We got a community thing going on there. So when you go to brotherali.com, go to the section called Join, and think about getting down with this caravan. We got people in there. Like, I don't want to start giving out people's stuff, because like what happens, we got a Slack channel where like we record stuff and talk to each other, and we do calls. We did a Zoom call. We did a 3-hour Zoom call the other day. And I mean, I don't want to start like giving people's demographics or whatever, but man, the people in this community would not be talking to each other and sharing with each other on the level that they are, were it not for this opportunity to connect. So check out all of that stuff. Go to brotherali.com. You'll see all the tour dates, all the merchandise. We got this Minneapolis show and this East Coast run coming up. We got new music coming, all of this stuff. Also, I just put out a Ask Me Anything episode just for the caravan subscribers, the people in the top 2 tiers. They got that. And there was a dope conversation in there. A white woman asked about, she was doing my song. She was doing interpretive dance to my song called Dear Black Son. And she was getting some pushback, and so one of the questions was about that. And I gave some very real talk to what I think is a very real person. I think she's a real person for asking that question. I gave some real reflections in there, along with a bunch of other stuff. These Ask Me Anything episodes are really dope. It's a chance for me to just open up and be the guest on the podcast for a while. So much love all the way around. Travelers Podcast is edited by Brendan Kelly, BK1, the one and only. And it's a production of Travelers Media. Much love. See you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.